Do you think white people are feeling like they're doing well?
They're generally more well off than the other ethnicities.
Okay, but nonetheless, they feel like discrimination is a half of them, and that's half. That's a lot.
Right.
Do you think it's true? Is discrimination against white people as big of a problem as discrimination against black and brown people?
I don't think it's true.
In this country have been through a lot of discrimination, a lot of controversy, and a lot of challenge, especially if you're in America. And if we want to get to these opportunities, we can't just blame them. We have to change a culture when it comes to this.
52% of all white people think that discrimination against white people is as big of a problem as discrimination against black people and other racial and ethnic minorities,
This is going to be
including,
interesting.
I assume, Koreans.
It could still be a good percentage of people. The 52% of all white people can also be supporters of like all lives matter. Those people could be also thinking
I know,
that,
but explain. Just tell me what do you think is going on in the heads of white people who are thinking that, yeah, man, the discrimination against us, it's white people in America, in the United States, is just as bad or worse than the discrimination against black discrimination.
It could be some situations such as maybe there is a program where there is like a opportunity that the black people get that the white people do not get.
Okay, so that's one. What else?
So
People are seeing that something's going on in society that black and brown, not just black people, but
Right.
black and brown people are getting something that we're not getting.
Right.
Yeah, okay, what else? Do you think white people are feeling like they're doing well?
In terms of
Just so their own socioeconomic standard, or?
they're generally more well off than the other ethnicities.
Okay, but nonetheless, they feel like discrimination is a half of them, and that's half. That's a lot.
Right.
So when you look at that, you're just kind of confused. Do you think it's true? Is discrimination against white people as big of a problem as discrimination against black and brown people?
I don't think it's true.
Uh-huh. So if I were to say that to you, like,
Right.
Jung,
Right.
discrimination against me is as big of a problem as discrimination against you.
Right.
What are you thinking? Of course it is. Come on, me, a white guy. You don't think it's true. Well, so what would you say?
I would probably say that you might have suffered a discrimination for some godly reason, but
Martin Luther King once said, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." The reason I'm reading this is because, if you don't know, African Americans in this country have been through a lot of discrimination and a lot of controversy and a lot of challenge. And because of that, because we fought through it, because we've decided to get what we deserved, we helped build a country that is not only safe for us, it's not only amazing for us, but it's also amazing for others. The reason I'm bringing this up is because right now I'm watching a video titled, "Is Racism Against White Americans Worse Than Any Other Races?" And we have a man here in the black hoodie explaining that, well, there could be chances, there could be situations to where a black person or someone of a minority can be discriminated against, and there also could be situations where someone who's white can be discriminated against, but he doesn't believe that racism against white Americans is worse than any other races. What I believe is that now in history is the best time ever on earth to be a minority, especially if you're in America. Right now we fought for so much. We've made so much progress that right now is an amazing time to be a minority. So much is so that if you were to go to college today and you were a minority, off the strength of that will give you a higher chance of getting into said school. The reason I brought up this Martin Luther King quote is because when he said this quote, that I have a dream that we will live up to the meaning of our creed and that one day it will be self-evident that all men are created equal. When he said that, there was true racism where they had colored-only bathrooms, they had colored-only buildings, they had white-only buildings, they had white-only schools, where there was true segregation and discrimination. Where it was evident everywhere you went outside, it was there. And he prayed for a day like this, where all men are created equal, where all men are given an equal chance. But here we are, still having these discussions. Still, as a minority, we're looking at white people and blaming them for cultural issues. I'm not going to go into too long rant, but this is all this made me think of. Let's just resume the video.
If you look at the world, there might be situations where the chances are that the white people are less discriminated than the other people.
The chances are better. A lot of wealth was created in these years. I mean, a lot of wealth. More wealth in those years than in the history of all humanity on earth. Okay? And
Of course.
74% of it went to the top 5%, the richest 5% of Americans. 74%. So all this wealth was created. More money is going into the economy. And 75%, 3/4 of it, is going into the richest 5%. So remember my story of being up here, right? I'm at the top. How is it that people at the top who are controlling, making laws, controlling regulation, funding the politicians, all sorts of things, how is it that people at the top 5, the richest 5%, are able to manipulate and move things so that we can ensure that of all the wealth that is created, 3/4 of it's going to go to us? So what happened up here at the top that things keep happening in the same way? Okay? And all the white people are not in the top 1%. So now I go back and I ask white people, hey, how you doing? How's discrimination going for you? How much do white people understand discrimination? How much do you think white people understand discrimination? How much do you think white people yeah, just that.
It's just how much white people
Yeah, understand discrimination. How well?
I say decently well.
Yeah? Decently well? Dude, how much do you think white people understand inequality?
I'd say about 20%.
Dude, they don't understand shit.
Okay.
Right? They understand nothing. If I brought them up one by one and started asking them to explain any of this stuff, first off, we just asked 4 people in class to explain the difference between Switzerland and Haiti, and they gave us these answers that were great for who you are, right? You're students. But your answers were really no better than the average answer that we would get from anybody off the street. So what you heard them say is what you're going to hear any average American say. It's well, it's about this, and maybe it's about that, and this, and I'm not really sure. And because, historically speaking, and people are going to bounce around, but people aren't going to understand. People do not have a systematic understanding of it. The fading American dream. The percent of children earning more than their parents by year of birth. I was born in 1960. So in my cohort in 1960, about 66% of myself and my friends who graduated high school with will earn more than our parents. Watch where it was in 1940, over 90%. Look what's happening. This includes white people. So
this is what I'm saying, man. When we have these discussions and we say, white people don't experience racism. White people don't experience discrimination. White people don't experience anything. They have white privilege. When you say stuff like that, it's very dehumanizing. It's very dehumanizing. Because there are real issues we have here. Real issues where 34% of the wealth is going to the top 1% of society. To the top 1%. Are all white people in America in the top 1%? Are all white people in America in the top 5%? Just the way statistics work, the majority of people will never be in the top 10%. White, black, red, yellow, blue, green. It's just what it is. So there's a higher chance that the average white person is closer to you than the top 1% will ever be. The average, the majority. So when you have these discussions and say, well, they don't experience discrimination because the top 1%, they're all white, or they control society. Do you control society? If you are white, do you control society? The majority of people, all I'm saying is, the majority of people work a normal job, make a normal salary, and live a normal life. And when you tell these people who live a normal life that they can't experience discrimination when they probably have, or that they're more privileged than everyone else in society, it's just extremely insulting. Because they're looking at it as, how? I live a normal life. They probably make the same amount as you, or probably less. They probably experience way harsher lives than you, or maybe not. But they're looking at it as, we basically live the same life. Just I'm white and you're black. How am I privileged and you're not? This is just creating a more divide than we've ever seen. It's just dividing us, bruh. It really is. We need to start loving each other more than having these debates.
We're not at 1985, and this has continued to go down. This is people who are 1985, born in 1985, so we can keep going to born in 2015. The estimates are going down and down. It's going down here.
It'll say my life sucks.
Yeah, you're going to say, like, there's a problem here.
Right.
And the problem is what? It's like, I don't know what the problem is, but there's something going on here. You're going to be confused. So you're white, and you're feeling like, yeah, I'm not doing so well, things aren't looking so good for me, but you're also not looking at that. This is median family wealth, 2016. And so half of all white families have $171,000 in wealth or more. Half of all of them. This is not mean. And then half have less. But look what it is for Hispanic and black families.
When you look at it, not much.
Do you think they ever see this? Think they ever look at it?
Not unless they care.
How many white people in this classroom do you think knew this before I put that graph up, or had a really good idea about it before I put the graph up?
I mean, since you called me, I'll say about like 5 people.
5 people? Let's ask. Don't lie, my white friends. You're on the white team right now. White people don't lie. We never lie. Okay? How many of you, if I'd asked you before we put this up here, how many of you could have had a pretty, maybe not, I don't mean the exact numbers, but knew that, yeah, man, there's this pretty serious inequality between white families and black and brown families, like serious, when we add up wealth. So how many of you could say, like, just white people, like, yeah, I got this. Raise your hands. Wait, hang on, let's count them, man. You said 5. So we're at, like, I'm seeing like 20, maybe even 25. 20, okay, that's cool. Most people aren't thinking it though, right? Here, look at this one. Median household income by race. Look at Asians, by the way. You know why Asian is so high? Household income?
We work too hard, I guess.
Do you work hard? No.
There's also, we also know that in families, like Asian tend to work both roles.
Dude, you're more likely, Asian in the United States.
Yes.
You ready? Asians are more likely to be new immigrants.
Right.
New immigrants are more likely to live in larger households with extended families.
Right.
So you're going to have like cousins and uncles and grandparents. It's household income. So all the income is being pooled together.
Right.
So you're naturally going to have more income. You could have like an Indian family of under one roof of 9 people. They're all working at 7-Eleven, but they pull all their money together, and that's a lot of money, man. Not that Indians work at 7-Eleven. Okay. So listen, man. Also, because Asians being more likely to be recent immigrants are more likely to come with professional degrees and make more money and so on. So here's the deal. Y'all, you ready? Remember King of the Mountain, King of the Hill. We're all like working to get ahead. Choice, chance. So like these two people on average. So we take the black, they're representing the black community and the Hispanic community. So they're down here. The Native American community, by the way, is out here, right? They're back here behind the door. That's how far back they are. And so everybody is working to get ahead. And then we come back here to this thing, that if, you ready? People have an equal chance. Dude, if you work hard, people have an equal chance to get ahead if they just work really hard.
In America, when it comes to equality of opportunity, that's a true statement, and it's also a false statement. Because yes, technically, everyone in the country has the same opportunity. Like, every job is open for everyone. But some entries or barriers are so hard to get into that the opportunities are not equal. The reason I brought that up is because when he brought up the chart that half of the white families in America have above $175,000, where none of the black or no other minority even reached 10%, I think. I don't even know. The reason I brought that up is because those issues are something that culturally we can change. Culturally, we can change. When you bring up an issue like saying, let's say half of the white families in America have more than $175,000, what percent of white families in America grow up with two parents? What percentage of white families in America had grandparents who passed down an inheritance? When you talk about it in my community specifically, 75% of our children are literally born out of wedlock. So when you talk about having a net worth above $175,000, how could it be when our families are divided into separate households? We have the father who doesn't live with the mother. We have the mother who lives with her dependents. How could it? Like, it's much harder. And that's why I said equality of opportunity, it does exist and it doesn't exist. Whereas the average white family, is that the case? I don't know. So when you bring up those charts and those situations, that's what separates equality. That's what separates when your family, when you grow up in a two-parent household, when you grow up when your grandparents had a two-parent household, they had an inheritance and they passed it down to your parents. Then your parents made sure you had the best education. They passed it down to you. These are values. This is a culture. This is what separates people from having equality. This is what separates. That's the only reason I brought it up. And that's an extremely important lesson.
The problem. What's your name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Melissa, Stephanie, and Melissa. Okay? Now, mind you, be aware of the following. It may be that the richest person in class is Hispanic or is black. I have no idea. We're just going with these numbers here for a second. So, Stephanie and Melissa, so they're going to work really hard, because this is the thing, work hard to get ahead. But while they're working hard to get ahead, the Asian team is also working hard, and so is the white team. Man, the white team's working hard. What do you think? White people are just chilling? White people are working too. And he's going to work as hard. What's your name, bro? Kyle. So Kyle's going to work hard. So watch so the two of you start moving up a little bit. But you guys are moving up too. So they start moving up, but they move up. And so the idea is somehow we're up here. So hang on. White people get up here. And then we look back down to black and brown people, less so Asians, and we're like, Kyle, you know what they need to do? They need to just work a little harder. You all could do it. Hey, by the way, Stephanie and Melissa, you could do it. You could be where Kyle and I are, but you're going to have to work really hard. But the problem is, when you're working really hard, are you ready for this? What are Kyle and I doing? We're working really hard too, because he and I are climbing up as well. And so the problem is, they can work as hard as they want, but we're going to keep working hard too.
And that's a very interesting discussion when it comes to the financial gain and saying working hard will give you success. That's not true at all. Let me tell y'all a story. If you stayed this far, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. But the reason that what he's saying is so true, and that's saying just working hard, if you're, for example, black, won't give you success, is because when it comes to success, or at least financial success, some jobs or vocations just naturally pay more, and let's be honest, some races are more prone to go into these vocations. What percent of lawyers in America are black? 5.7%. 5%. What percent of doctors in America are black? 5.7%. What percent of engineers in America are black? Like 3%? These are literally some of the top 3 highest paid professions in the country. And we can't even crack 10% in any of those fields. What percent of people in the NFL are black? Around 45, 50%. What percent of people in the NBA are black? Around 73, 75%. And I know these professional leagues have way less players, meaning that it's only 200, 300 people in these leagues who are black. But the reason I bring that up is because that shows a culture. When we make up a majority of something, that shows that it's a part of our culture. That shows that we are producing the majority of athletes, meaning naturally, majority of our children are dedicating their lives to these sports. And the reason that this is a problem is because what if you don't go pro? Are you just like, what are you supposed to do? You can't really make much money in these if you don't go pro, or if you're not a high achieving coach. And we only make up 13% of the country. So when we have 75% of something in a field, that means an overwhelming majority of us are dedicating our lives to this. But we're only 5% of doctors. We're only 5.7% of lawyers. We're only 3% of engineers. That implies that an underwhelming minority of us are going into these fields. So when you have the high-paying fields, we're not chasing them. We aren't. The numbers show that we aren't. But when you go to fields such as entertainment or go to fields such as athletics, we are chasing them, and we make it a lot of the time. But the majority of people don't make it. Only 1% of high school athletes go D1. So the other 99% who dedicate their childhood to this, instead of learning statistics or calculus or trying to study for the SATs, they were in the gym playing basketball. That's what happened. That's a culture. And if we want to get to these opportunities, we can't just blame them. We have to change a culture when it comes to this. But if you have any more suggestions from me, comment down below. It's LFR Jojo, and I'll see you on the next one.